Let's get all sides of the story now. So they finish Matric, they're heading off, most of them, to tertiary institutions to get a sense of how prepared the country's universities are to welcome first-year students. We're joined by the Chief Executive Officer for University South Africa, Professor Ahmed Bawa. Professor, always a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you, Blade, and thank you for having me on the program.
All right, so we know that a lot of students are anxious. They are planning to come to universities, tertiary institutions, the like. Are universities ready to welcome these first-year students, especially during this pandemic?
Yeah, I think the universities are ready to have students back. It will be a complicated year again because we certainly aren't over the pandemic, and basically that means that there will be quite a lot of blended learning. Some students will be studying off campus, some on campus, and so on. And the critical factor will be to get the academic program going, and at the same time ensure that universities don't become sites of outbreaks, of COVID-19 outbreaks, if you like it.
Do you think this?
So that's the challenge.
This model of blended learning will be jarring, and I guess put these learners, these first-year students, on the back foot coming into universities and tertiary institutions.
Yeah, look, I think that I think the future of higher education is going to be some form of blended learning. I mean, I think that that's the case all over the world. I mean, not just in South Africa. In fact, what researchers will tell you is that it's one form, at least, of trying to ensure much more sort of active learning on the part of students and so on. And also the whole idea of trying to use technology to broaden access to higher education. Now, I'm not suggesting that we are at that point yet, where we know for sure, just exactly how effective blended learning will be. But there's certainly a lot of experimentation going on. And the universities have all had tremendous experience from last year to make that learning experience much more favorable than it used to be. And I think I should also emphasize that several universities feel confident about getting their students back onto campus. So it will be a mixed situation.
Right. When are they scheduled to come back?
The first year intake will begin around about the 8th of March, and will then it'll be staggered university by university until the first week of April.
Right.
And that will give us enough time to complete the academic year in 2021.
And what sort of mechanisms have been put in place? What sort of measures have been put in place in order to keep learners, keep students rather, safe on campus?
Yeah, remember, it's not just the students; it's also the staff.
Yes, correct.
Who are, who are also in the category of people who are most susceptible, if you like, to serious illness. So the way it will work is that we have this organization called Higher Health, which is which was started up by USAF, in fact, but is now an independent structure. Which has created a whole set of protocols that universities will abide by. And universities have already rolled those out, for last year.
Yeah.
And those systems are still in place. So it's everything to do with, ensuring that there's social distancing, that there are protocols in place for masking, that there are sanitization stations, and so on. Having said that, I mean, I think we also have to just keep in mind that there are up to 30 or 40,000 students on our campuses. So, there has to be tremendous vigilance, if you like it.
Professor, speaking about the staff, the lecturers, talking about the educators in schools, would you suggest or prefer that these lecturers, educators, etc., are pushed to the front of the queue with regards to getting vaccinated, inoculated, together with the healthcare workers? Do you think that that's a good idea in order to keep everybody safe?
Yeah, no, we do think that university staff are what we might refer to as frontline staff, I mean, because they're, at the front line, if you like, and that they should be considered, if not in phase 1, then at least in phase 2 for, for vaccinations. And hopefully that will make the academic year much more, much safer, at least for everybody concerned. But also it will allow us to complete the academic year. And of course, the same should apply to teachers, and other frontline staff. So,
right.
Of course, everything now depends on the plans of the Department of Health to ensure that that the rollout of the vaccines program is done effectively. I mean, so we would argue quite strongly that university staff should be regarded as frontline staff.
Prof, I just want to talk a bit about the NSFAS funded qualifications. What more are we learning with regards to these? Has the NSFAS sent any notice with regards to which qualifications will be funded and which qualifications won't?
Yeah, look, a notification was sent to the universities last week, which kind of delineated a set of programs that it said won't be funded. That has led to some confusion, I have to say. One of the programs listed there was a B.Ed program. And I think what this was really meant was that it's one of these legacy B.Ed programs, which was a postgraduate program. The new 4-year B.Ed programs have to be funded. I mean, that would be ridiculous for those programs not to be funded. What I understand is that the Department of Higher Education and Training is going to send out a clarificatory note today on those programs that were listed in that communication. It's clearly incorrect. Yeah.
Right. What sort of other qualifications or programs won't be funded? Are they mainly skills-based programs that won't?
No, it's not that so much. It's right. Really to do with the fact that NSFAS funds primarily first qualifications,
right,
and not postgraduate or post-diploma graduation programs,
right,
and that's the key factor. So. The appearance of B.Ed on that list, for example, was totally incorrect because the new B.Ed is actually an undergraduate degree. It's not a postgraduate degree.
Right.
And of course, the other one that's on the list is the Bachelor of Technology. That, of course, is, you might know that is already being phased out. I mean, it's no longer a qualification that's being offered. So that also is sort of odd for that to be on the list. But there are some others which are more controversial. For example, the postgraduate LLB qualification is on that list as well, and that is that is a change on previous years.
What's your biggest fear if the status quo remains with regards to if these are not funded? What's your biggest concern?
First of all, I mean, I think that we are aware that postgraduate programs are not funded, so that's good. There needs to be some clarity about qualifications like the postgraduate LLB. We need to have some much greater clarity about that. But certainly they'll have to put the B.Ed back on the list. I mean, that just doesn't make sense for it not to be on the list.
All right, Professor, thank you very much indeed for your time, Professor Ahmed Bawa there.
A pleasure.
Always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much indeed.